This is TWiT.
Microsoft announced a whole bunch of computers based not on Intel chips, but on Qualcomm Snapdragon Elite X. Qualcomm had an event last year saying this is the fastest, this is going to be incredible, you're going to, wow, this is amazing. And Microsoft has now got, they call them Copilot PCs. That's actually the brand. Copilot PCs. The idea being that these new Qualcomm chips have NPUs, neural processing units built in. They're claiming 40 tops. Remember, Apple claimed 38 tops on its top-of-the-line iPad. That's trillion operations per second. That's kind of how you measure AI capability, I guess, these days. What do you think?
Well, my first question is for you because you follow Windows more closely than I do. Is this the moment that finally the Windows world, after many previous attempts, is this the time where finally they're going to basically say, we're doing our processor transition to ARM, and ARM is going to be the future and the Intel stuff is the past? Because Microsoft has been, dithering around with ARM for a while, and they try to drag, like, who's with me? And nobody comes with them.
Unequivocally, the answer to that is absolutely not. If Microsoft is nothing if not kind to legacy, and that's really what's held Microsoft back in many respects, and what Apple has been very good about is just saying, hey, sorry, you own that old thing, it's no good anymore. Microsoft will, my prediction, it's unknown, but I did ask the same question of the Windows Weekly team, Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell. They agreed Microsoft's not abandoning Intel, when probably likely never will, as long as there's one business in Sri Lanka, one little store that's using an Intel PC, Windows, it's going to run Windows, right?
8. Well, I guess more is this the moment where the ARM stuff that, came to the Mac and really transformed the Mac, especially on the laptop side, is this the moment where Windows PCs, especially laptops, start just commonly being ARM? And because they've got that, I think it's called Prism, it's like Rosetta, it's a translation layer. Like, is this the moment where an ARM PC can just sell in quantity and everybody's fine and everybody's okay with it? Because up to now, ARM PCs have been oddities, right? They have been not quite right. And I mean, it feels to me as an outsider that this may be the moment where all the hardware partners are on board, where the benefits of ARM processors might actually come to stay on PC laptops.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, of course, as you said, it remains to be seen because we don't have them yet. Qualcomm has made, and Microsoft have made a lot of claims. We have to try it. Battery life, very similar to Apple Silicon. Performance in the ballpark. Obviously, Apple has now moved on to M4. And they didn't compare it to a MacBook Pro. They compared it to MacBook Air, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And these PCs get a load of this, Leo. These PCs are more expensive than the Mac they're comparing it to, which I think is really telling. They've got, for good reasons, they've got baseline specs that are higher. They have 16 gigs of RAM and the certain number of neural processing units and all that. But I did think it was funny that after all these years where the Mac is always the much more expensive comparison, they're comparing these $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 laptops to a $1,099 MacBook Air, but it's okay, and not the MacBook Pros or anything, but it's okay. It's in the ballpark, and that's what struck me about it most, is that finally it seems like there is a good, solid MacBook Air-esque story for PC laptops. Well, there's more. If I was a PC user, I'd be happy.
There's more to it than that because, and you've probably run Windows on ARM on your MacBook. I have. It runs quite well under Parallels. In fact, in many respects, runs better than Windows on an Intel processor. But Windows on ARM is not the same as Windows on Intel, and most importantly, it's the apps aren't. Even a lot of Microsoft's apps are not yet ported over. So it's good they have a compatibility layer. Again, we have to see how well that works. Most of the stuff people are going to do is going to be running in the compatibility layer, not native on ARM. They did say 80% faster than our previous generation, which is a big jump. 22 hours of local video playback. It really, and in fact, if I show you the video, it looks a lot like, a MacBook Air, perhaps. I mean, it's very similar.
But the weird thing is that, you would think that if they're comparing directly to the MacBook Air, the one thing that one feature that the new Surfaces have that the Air does not is a fan. And so are they saying that one of the advantages of moving to this kind of architecture should be not only lower power consumption, but also lower thermal? So it should be, you would hope that it throttles a lot less. You get the full performance out of the chip. But by putting fans in these things, I mean, they're $3,000 super powerful, like workstation grade Windows laptops that also have fans. And so I'm surprised that given the significance of this announcement for them, they didn't want to have one of their surfaces be like, here is an iPad-like computer that is running the full version of Windows 11 and the full suite of desktop apps that are compatible with Qualcomm, as opposed to here is the next suite of Surface laptops that don't look and feel all that different. It is a huge leap. And as usual for Microsoft, the big leap is not so much technology or vision, but trying to get all their developers to back an idea. Remember that their Microsoft's first big organized response to the iPad was to say, we are going to create a brand new version of Windows that runs on ARM architecture, that runs special apps that can be developed alongside Windows apps, but are not necessarily full Windows apps. Eventually, we will have a version of Windows that will run on it. And they were nice. They were lovely. I thought that they combined multi-touch with keyboard and mouse very, very nicely, but developers said we would much rather write apps for people who will be buying those apps, as opposed to putting our own hat in the ring with you're doing something very, very risky that we don't know if anybody even wants anymore.
I think you also have to consider who buys Windows versus who buys Macintosh.
Right. And
the people who buy Windows, if they're not already sold into the Windows market, I don't know if they're going to move into the, I mean, I don't think there's one feature that I'm curious what you guys think of that is maybe makes me think, oh, maybe I should get a Windows PC. I have to point out, despite the fact that I co-host Windows Weekly, I loathe Windows. It is not a good operating system for a variety of reasons. Mac OS is more elegant. It doesn't have built-in advertising. It's, I think, more stable. It also, to me, the most important thing is has a command line that's a real command line that I can run Unix-like apps and actually real Unix apps on and so forth. But there is this new thing that they're calling recall. Have you seen this? The idea is every few seconds, Windows will save an image of what you've been doing. And then at any point, you can scan your PC history and recall what you were doing. Now, it says pre-release product shown subject to change, so it's not even out. There's also, to me, I suppose, a little bit of a privacy concern there. The apps have to support it because they have to deliver some sort of meta information with that recall that you can search. What do you think? Is this something that would make you switch from a Mac to a PC?
Well, you can get this on the Mac. There's actually a product that does this on the Mac now.
What's the name of that?
It's called Rewind.
Rewind.
Well, never mind. I'm definitely not buying this.
So Rewind is made by the same folks who are making that little...
the limitless
pendant.
The pendant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I guess that's why it's appealing to me. The idea that I don't have to remember everything.
Well, it's the idea that it's built into the OS is interesting. And I do wonder, I mean, we'll see what happens at WWDC, but like Apple could absolutely make a new version of Time Machine that, among other things, also sort of like had this ability, because one of the things that it does that the Mac product, standalone product, doesn't do is have an API where apps will rewind, right? But that is actually there in Time Machine. It's just not something that it's all interconnected.
You can't search it either. I mean, it's
this concept has been out there for a while now. The idea that basically you're running a screen recording in the background and it's transcribing and it's digesting all of that and it's logging what apps you're using, and then it allows you to say, what did I do earlier today? What was I doing? What did I say in that meeting or whatever? And it's all just sort of sitting there. It's an interesting idea, probably more powerful at the system level. So Microsoft having that advantage there is probably more powerful. I do wonder whether Apple wants to go down the path of watching everything you do, and even if it's on device. It also is incredibly resource intensive, which is one of the reasons why all of these systems do have big hard drives and lots of RAM. You're going to use it if you're doing something like logging everything you do on that system.
You can go up to 64 gigs of RAM and a terabyte hard drive, but that'll cost you $2,400. I like the colors, pretty colors. Apple was kind of dinged on the colors on its iPads, but these are nice, solid iPad-like colors. You have a Surface laptop,
yeah,
right?
Surface Laptop 2, I think. And I've always been impressed by the battery life of it. I was going to say, I am incredibly impressed and also a little perplexed at how quickly Microsoft pivoted to now, like, literally the machine is branded with Copilot.
Oh, it's got a key.
And it's got a key. Like AI, in its current iteration, the generative AI craze did not take place so long ago that this is happening. And so it's kind of mind-boggling to me how much Microsoft has just shifted its focus and, in theory, its future to Copilot and generative AI.
Somebody in the Discord said they're putting the cart before the horse because you have all these capabilities and there isn't yet software and to take advantage of it. Maybe there's not a need demonstrated for it.
Yeah. I think this is like in the tradition of those old multimedia PCs that give you a dedicated key for America Online and ordering pizza. It's like nobody. It's like obviously future iterations of Windows are going to have OpenAI features, we assume, integrated really, really closely. But is that the tool that people are going to want to use for that kind of task? Are they going to say, look, it's for what I do, it's valuable to me to have one AI assistant for just basic intelligent assistant matters, one that is for research, one is for coding, and to put an entire key devoted to that one feature. Yeah, I'm with Mikah. It's like that seems very premature and it seems like something that will date a machine. Oh, wow, you must have bought this laptop in 2024, 2025, back when Microsoft had that idea that everyone's going to have a multimedia button on their PC, and that's going to be the key to the experience.
Yeah.
You can pry my Domino's pizza button from my
I wish there were a pizza button. Maybe I have a that was easy button on the wall. Bam, pizza. So notice, by the way, that the way they pitch this, even for business, is unlock next-gen AI experiences like Recall, that thing I just talked about, and the studio effects, which...
Studio effects is...
I don't know. Is that really what you want? This is Copilot plus business, PCs for business, and that's the two features they talk about.
I do not like that Recall feature for business because they're going to be so... Right. That's the thing. People already are... I remember, I think it was actually Lisa who had mentioned that a friend of hers was unaware of using a machine that was given to her by her work and using it and not realizing that the work would have all access and all knowledge of what was going on there. Recall is just going to be even more of a surveillance state system.
Microsoft already has the technology.
It's going to be a problem with,
by the way.
Fair enough. Yeah.
They call Viva.
Well, it's also going to be a problem with compliance. You have a lot of installations where it's like their contracts with the people that they work for say that, can you certify that at no point is this data leaving this PC? Do you know exactly where this data is going at all times? And I'm sure they thought about that. They are the king of selling things in units of 1,000 to faceless government agencies and stuff like that. True. But that's a big part of the question that I don't really understand.
Yeah, well, basically that button will just not work. It's just disabled.
And actually, all it does is it launches the thing that there are 14 different, as usual with Windows, 14 different ways to launch that sidebar that puts Copilot in there. And it remains to be seen whether there's anything really useful or whether business will jump on this. But I agree with you, Michael. It's pretty impressive that they could launch this, like basically turn on a dime and say, "Oh yeah, AI, that's the thing." And then,
as a big a company as it is, to be that nimble is kind of impressive.
Well, although they're probably repurposing a Cortana button and Qualcomm's various neural processors were already part of their roadmap by that company that they bought that came over from Apple to do a startup. Like, it's all baked in there. But yes, I do admire the fact that they were able to get all of their marketing and storytelling in line to hit what they think is the hot thing right now. It's really smart. And I mean, it's funny, we're talking about this on MacBreak Weekly, but I think there is also, this is interesting in the sense of how influential Apple's moves. I mean, the MacBook Air led to the whole Ultrabooks and all of that. Like Apple has been influential in the PC industry for a long time, but that move to Apple Silicon was one of those moments where it's like, oh boy, how does the Windows world respond to that? And it does strike me that this is the best response they've got yet. And that if you're a Windows user who wants an experience like the moving to Apple Silicon experience was for Mac users, this may be the moment, which is great.
Hey, it's Leo Laporte. If you enjoyed this little snippet of our programming, make sure you check out the full MacBreak Weekly. The link is right down there.